Welcome to the Remarkable Dentist Podcast with me, Fred Joyal, where I interview amazing dental practice owners digging into their successes and failures, their insights and hindsights, getting their views on where dentistry is going, and discovering what it took for them to become remarkable. Welcome to episode 5 of the Remarkable Dentist Podcast. My very special guest is my dear friend, Rich Madow. And I know that I'm supposed to have working dentists on here, and he's really not a working dentist, but he works hard for dentists, and he went to dental school and he spun a handpiece for a while. We're going to talk about dumb things that smart dentists do. And if you don't know who Rich Madow is, he and his brother Dave created the best seminar ever, which was a fantastic seminar that went on every year for, he's going to tell us how many years. I spoke at it many times. It was just a blast. It was as close as you could come to the best seminar you could ever want to go to. And they finally abandoned it right before the pandemic, I believe, and got away clean. So, Rich, welcome to the podcast.
Fred, it is so great to be here. I am just sorry that I can't be hanging out with you in person today because we always have fun when we get together. It's been too few times over the years, but whenever we do, it's always a blast. You are just such an engaging, enthusiastic, smart person. And not only that, but you're a good hang, as they say, in the rock and roll business. So it won't be long, I hope, before we can hang out together again. But thanks for that introduction. You know, it's really interesting. I feel like the Madow Center has done so many things in dentistry over 30 years, but so many people know us for TBSE. And I've been interviewed on a bunch of podcasts recently. I guess it's just a sign of the pandemic, right? And everybody's wanted to talk about TBSE. So apparently it left an impact on some people, which is always nice to hear.
Well, I made great friends going there. It was a joy to be in that crowd. It was one of the few seminars where everybody was always in the main room. And that was a very distinct and powerful difference and terrific for speakers, because you had the whole room when you spoke, and there were just great people that came and spoke, and a lot of those became friends of mine as well, just from having listened to them and been so impressed with everything they had to offer to these people. And people were just so enthusiastic. They came with their whole teams, and they left energized. And I know that's, you know, what was the percentage of repeat attendees every year?
Wow. Well, you know, it went for 25 years, and I don't have an exact data point on that, but after about 5 or 6 years, every year when Dave and I would get up on stage to begin the whole thing after our crazy videos and songs and all that stuff, we would say, like, okay, who's never been to a TBSE before? And then some people would raise their hands. And then we'd say, who's been to 5? Who's been to 7? Who's been to 10? Who's been to 20? And at 20, a pretty decent percentage of people would stand up, which is like, oh my God, is this a cult or a dental seminar?
And I think is more than a bit about both. And you guys it was always highly entertaining. You guys opened always with a great performance, and it was fun and funny, and you know, and very valuable. And that's what we're going to talk about today, because you've spent a lot of time helping dentists to do things better in their business. That's been what you and your brother have focused your attention on when you're not putting on this seminar. The seminar is certainly about that. But as I mentioned at the outset, we're going to talk about dumb things that smart dentists do. And I'm going to give you the wheel here and let you start that off. Explain.
Sure, but if you don't mind, Fred, when you were talking about TBSE, and this amazingly the first time I ever thought of that, 2 metaphors came to mind for me that dentists could actually use in their practices. Now, maybe they're not valid, so I'll let you be the judge of that. But we're both professional speakers. You know, I'm a dentist. You're an expert dental marketer, along with many other things. But we're also both dental speakers, and we've spoken at all the big meetings, all the small meetings. And when you were talking about TBSE, You said one of the things you liked about it is that everybody was in the same room. And so there wasn't, hygienists go here and dental assistants go here. And some people go shopping and some people do this and that. And as a speaker, it was very rewarding to speak at TBSE because you'd be in a room with 3,000 crazy people in it. Whereas when you speak at, I'll just say, the Chicago Midwinter, which is one of my favorite meetings of all time, nothing against that meeting, but there are 30 rooms going at the same time. So even if your session is well attended, you're going to have a few hundred people. And a lot of them are thinking, I'm going to hear half of Joyal, then I'll leave at 10:30 and go hear half of Rich Madow. So it's, and I think the lesson there is that people just love it when you give them your full attention. It's so important. And it's one of the golden rules of running a dental practice that when a patient is in there or a patient's on the phone or whatever, they need to feel like the entire practice is focused on them at that moment in time. Like everything's about them. Because look, they know that the hygienist is seeing another patient and the dentist has to go check a impression in room 3 or whatever, but they don't want to feel like that. They want to feel like everything is focused around them. And it's the same thing when we're a speaker. We love being the center of attention. Well, our patients love it too. Even the shy ones, the introverted ones, the ones that don't show that much emotion, they love thinking that when they're there, it's about them. So that's one TBSE metaphor that you made me think of.
Yeah, that's true. I think it's very true. So give us a little taste. Give us the bullet on the first thing that you want to talk about that is a dumb thing that you have observed dentists.
Okay,
doing.
We're going to talk about dumb things that smart dentists do. Because look, dentists, I'm not saying this because I'm a dentist. You've got to be pretty smart to be a dentist. Get good grades in I was a microbiology major. Some of you were biochemistry majors. I mean, these are tough courses. You got to get good enough grades to get into dental school. Then you've got to make it through those 4 years of hell and come out intact. And then you kind of get thrown into the real world. And you've got to be smart and you've got to be tenacious to complete all this. But then we still do some really dumb things because I guess it's just our nature. I don't know. I was putting together a new webinar. I started making a list. I didn't have a title for it yet, but I started making a list kind of mistakes that I've made and that other dentists have made over the years. And I've got our local Baltimore. I'm in Baltimore, Maryland, by the way. So I was listening to our college radio station and the song comes on by Paul Kelly. Now he's not well known in the US. In Australia, very well known. This song's from the late 80s and it's called Dumb Things. And he just keeps saying over and over again, I've done all the dumb things. I'm thinking, wow, I'm making a list of the dumb things that I've done. And hopefully people will be able to relate to that. So I'm going to call this new course Dumb Things That Smart Dentists Do. So I'll start with one and see how you feel. Now this one, actually, it's interesting that I'm being interviewed by you to talk about the number one dumb thing, because you have done so much in your career to help dentists get new patients. I mean, you are absolutely one of the world's experts on helping dentists get new patients. And we do that too at the Madow Center. But I'm going to say dumb thing number one is focusing way too much on the new patients, the new patient fix, the new patient addiction. Like if I just had more new patients, my practice would be better, my life will be better, everybody would like me, I'd be doing this and that. And it's all new patients, new patients, new patients. And we love new patients. And you got to have new patients or else your practice will stagnate. But if we started working with one of these practices, just about every single time we go in and analyze their data, their software, we would find that they've got a ton of patients who have already picked up the phone and already been through their doors, already had an examination, but they just fall into that black hole, slip through the cracks, whatever you want to call it. And they don't have an appointment scheduled. They haven't got their treatment completed. Probably they haven't found another dentist or died or any of those things. So they're yours for the taking, but we don't concentrate on these patients who are inactive. All we want to do is get more new patients.
Yeah, and that I call it, you want a big front door, but the back door is wide open, right? Basically,
yep.
And they're eventually they may find another dentist, or they may have moved away and you don't actually know it, but they didn't accept treatment right off the bat. So you've kind of abandoned them in your mind as somebody that you're going to produce dentistry on, or you're going to wait for them to accept treatment. You're going to do the classic supervised neglect. which I always love Howard Farran say, it's better than unsupervised neglect, right? But only
Not so sure about
marginally
that.
so, you know.
It might not be. At least unsupervised, you're not legally liable for it.
So yes, there's a hard drive at this point full of potential that is being ignored because it somehow seems easier to start with a new patient when it's actually harder. So because there should be a relationship being built, and there's so many ways to get to these people now, to communicate with them, to use technology to revitalize that relationship, to start to communicate more who you are. And I know people don't want to do that. They just like, I just want them to make an appointment, and when they're in the office, I want to talk to them about what they need, and I want them to accept. But that's not human nature. It's like one of the big challenges, one of the big dumb things I see dentists doing is they want human nature to be something else other than what it is. They want people, they want people to ask for treatment. They want people to take care of their bodies. Guess what? They don't. We're not wired to think long-term as human beings. We still have a primitive brain that goes out about 90 days. It's got like a season. That's all it can work with, right? It's going to be winter. I got to be ready for winter. It's going to be spring. I'm ready for spring. Beyond that, we can't process it, right? So the idea that we're going to need dentures someday if we don't take care of our teeth, way too far down the line.
Right. And we also have to admit, like it or not, people like to put off their dental appointment. It's just not as much fun as doing other things. And even though this patient might sincerely want to come in and they know they need to come in, they're not just going to pick up the phone spontaneously and say, oh, I realize it's been 8 months. I'm ready to come in. They're not going to do that. So you're so right about I always say, it's like, you've worked so hard to get this big bus of new patients to pull up at your front door. Then they all get off the bus, they're walking single file, and some stop in the hygiene room, some stop in the dentist treatment room, but most of them just keep walking right out through that back door. And it's funny that you said we've got a hard drive full of existing patients, because there's a term that we coined way back before the hard drive, and that is the $1 million file cabinet. And you used to walk into a dental office in the 90s, and you would say, oh my God, look at this. There's a wall full of charts. This must be the most successful dental practice ever. But meanwhile, it's the $1 million file cabinet, meaning there's $1 million worth of diagnosed and probably presented treatment that's never been done. So it's right there waiting for you to grab it, man.
Well, and it is a security blanket because we did this when at 800 Dentists, we had a service where we did a patient reactivation program where we would call through their existing patients and try to reactivate them. And the first thing that we would do is clean the database. So we'd say, how many patients do you have? Because we were going to charge them based on how many patients. And they would say, oh, I've got 2,000 patients. Well, the first pass through, 20% of those disappeared automatically. They had either moved away, it was no longer the right contact information. And then the next wave was people who hadn't been in 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. They're still calling them active patients for some reason. And as we started to go through them, we realized that they were like, oh no, I have another dentist. So it was a really hard service to offer, because we said, you don't have 2,000 active patients, you have 1,200. And it's a disturbing thing, right? It's like, it's still a great practice, but that's a significant percentage less people that are your potential patients. Now, of those 1,200, 50% are undertreated, underdiagnosed, in process of accepting treatment. Some of them, probably 10% are walking around with a temporary they've had on for 6 months. Right. But yeah, that's the thing is don't feel secure about anything except what you're producing and how many your people that you're producing on a regular basis. If they're not at that minute in 2 years, they're not an active patient. I would go 18 months actually.
18 months, I agree. And there's a class in dental school where they tell you, if anybody ever asks you how many active patients you have, the answer is 2,000. Just say 2,000. Isn't it true? Whenever you ask a dentist how many, if it's a solo practice, how many patients do you have? The answer is always 2,000. It's just crazy. Must be the right answer.
So,
Okay, let's do another dumb thing. What do you think?
yes.
Okay, there's like a Madow family habit. I'm one of three brothers. Dave's the oldest, Marshall's the middle, I'm the youngest. We're all dentists. But we also have this habit of like when somebody says something that we think is funny, we remember it. And 30 years later, we keep repeating it to each other. And the person that said it, long forgot that they said this thing. And there's something you said to me many years ago that just cracked me up. And it relates to dumb thing number two. We were talking about, I think I was saying how it can be really challenging to be a dental consultant because people don't listen and this and that. And you just looked at me and said, anyone could be a dental consultant. Just tell them to answer the phone when it rings. And it's true. Not that anyone could be a dental consultant, but that the most basic things like answering the phone when it rings are not being done in dental practices. So the next dumb thing I want to talk about is let's take a look at who is sitting at your front desk doing an incredibly important task of answering the phone. And is it just because, you had a great clinical team, but there was an opening in the front desk and anybody that could fog a mirror just took that seat and they didn't have any training? We do mystery shopper calls all the time on our podcast. And I've been doing them live at seminars for decades. And the most amazing thing right from the start is that 40 to 50% of the time during normal business hours, the phone is not even answered. You get a voicemail. Just picture you're a potential new patient and you live in, LA like you do, or Baltimore I do, smaller city, but still there's a dentist, 5 dentists on every street here. And for some reason, that person picks up the phone and calls your office number. It's like the miracle has just happened. And they're going to call at 10:15 on a Tuesday and hear, if you're hearing this message during normal business hours, it means we're busy treating other patients. Not acceptable.
Yeah. Or, yeah. And the behavior of human beings in the whole telephony arena has radically changed. 3 rings and they hang up. We don't leave voicemail. We don't check voicemail. That thing has ceased to exist, okay? It's gone from the tapes recording on a little answering machine box to digital to I don't check that. My voicemail box says, if you know me, you would be sending me a text, right? So don't bother leaving a voicemail. And so that the idea that's, and the practices will also say, and we'll close from 12 to 1 for lunch and things like that. So you mean the time when I can call you, you are not going to answer.
Right. The only time this hardworking person with great insurance can call, you're not going to pick up the phone. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but that's not even the main dumb thing, not answering the phone, which is a dumb thing enough. It's kind of like a 1 and a 1A. That's the 1A. But the 1 really is that the person answering the phone, when they actually do answer the phone, for some reason, doesn't offer the patient an appointment. And, again, on our Dental Practice Fixers podcast, every week I do at least 3 mystery shopper calls. So I got to tell you the call I did last week. And I don't cherry pick them and just put the worst or the funniest or whatever you want to say. I'm always trying to come up with original things to say. How many times can you ask how much do you charge for a cleaning? Even though it's a great question. So I decided I'm gonna throw the softest of softballs. I called 3 offices right in a row and said, I think I'm getting a cavity. What toothpaste do you recommend? Now, do you think any of them said, if you think you're getting a cavity, we should probably have you come in to see the dentist? No. They all said, oh, just get a fluoride toothpaste. Or one of them said some crazy toothpaste I never heard of. A patient's calling, not only have they never been in your office, but they think they have a cavity and they were not offered an appointment. It's mind-blowing.
Yeah. No, it's I use the analogy of security guards because we so underpay that important position in the dental office of answering the phone. And it's like a security guard makes minimum wage on that. Do you think he's actually going to risk his life to protect you or to protect the building or do anything? Right. He is going to stand there. Now he's going to stand there and look at his phone, right, as stuff happens, right? So, they could be stealing your car and the alarm could be going off and he's going to stand there. So this position is a key position to be highly skilled at how you do it. And you have to find a way to broaden the number of hours that they can communicate with you one way or the other, whether it's on the phone, on your website, on your chat on your website, emailing you, booking an appointment right there on your website. There's so many ways to solve it and to be in communication. You know, there's systems that are set up now where the chat can pop up on your phone 24 hours a day, or it can flip over to somebody else who's answering it. Then that's all they do is try to get somebody in. I mean, 800 dentists, that's what we did. We had a live call center where people answered the phone, and their job was to get people to go to the dental office. If they had called us and said, I have a cavity, I just want to know what toothpaste to use, our operators are trained to go, you need a dentist. If you don't have a dentist, you need a dentist. That's the entire formula, right?
Right, exactly.
All they needed to know. You don't have one? We will get you. Need to go one. And so dentists were constantly going, can I get one of your people to come answer my phone? Or could you just answer my phones for me? Right. So they got that it required skill, but how do you get that skill? How do just pay well, find a good person, get them trained. The training exists.
But you know, it's really interesting, Fred, because you said at 800 dentists, that person had one job and one job only. That's to get the person off the phone and into the appointment book. And it's so true. But now I'm going to have a little sympathy. Now that I just cut down all the front desk peoples, I'm going to have a little sympathy for them because, look, they've got insurance companies to deal with. They've got a patient who's ready to check out, staring them in the face. They've got a lot of things going. And it's easy to get distracted. But if that's the case, if your office is that busy, you probably need another person at the front desk because the most important thing they do is getting a potential new patient off the phone and into the appointment book. Everything else can wait. That's what they got to do.
Yeah. And I say the job description is very simple. Get them in. Sort them out in the office. Yeah. What am I supposed to do? Get the person in the office. What if they don't have insurance? Then we're going to show them the best office they ever saw and make them wish they were getting treated by us so that when they go someplace else that takes their insurance, they go, I don't want to go to this place. I want to go to that office that I just had.
I want to go to CADCAM.
So
true. I totally agree. Okay. This is so much fun. I don't even want to move on to the next dumb thing, but I guess we're going to have to because we've got a bunch of them here to talk about. The next dumb thing. I hate the phrase pet peeve. I actually have a pet peeve about the phrase pet peeve, but this is a pet peeve. As someone who has had the honor, privilege, whatever, of seeing the financials of so many dental practices and the financials of the dentists, dentists can think that when something's going on in their practice and they just know they can do better, they need to increase their revenue, take it to the next level, whatever you want to call it, that buying some expensive, fancy piece of equipment is going to be the answer. And I just want to say, I'm not a Luddite. I think, obviously cone beam technology is incredible. Being able to do a same day crown is really cool. All these things are great, but sometimes they are, you're investing six figures into a piece of equipment. And let's face it, the people who sell these expensive dental technologies are really highly trained, very sophisticated salespeople. And they're not, they don't get paid if your practice does better after you buy their gadget. They get paid their commission when you buy it. And I'm not saying that they're not caring people, but just like, as you said, your job is to get them in. This person's job is to sell that equipment. And they will tell you that it's going to make your practice better, that it's going to increase your revenue. But many times it's not. And you buy something, and you've got no plan, you've got no marketing strategy, you haven't even taken the courses. You just are convinced that if I buy big, shiny gadget A, my revenues are going to go up automatically. And so many times you just got like the next dental Peloton and it adds to your debt. Look at dental Peloton, I just made that up.
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful analogy because mine is a fabulous coat hanger. No, but I tell dentists, you use the CADCAM as an example. I would always tell dentists, I say, this thing is one of two things. A CEREC is either an ATM machine or a doorstop. It's entirely up to you. It's going to be one of the most expensive doorstops you ever got, or it's going to have a profound impact on your practice based on using it, right? And telling people that you have it. That's always the other side of it. If you're going to get technology, use it, but tell a patient the benefit to them of that practice. Not that it has a 3D camera on it and that you're all excited about it and it it has a computerized lathe. That's all wonderful, but it eliminates the need for me to do a temporary and eliminates one visit. Oh, now I'm interested because you told me something I care about. I don't want to be here and I don't want to be here twice. And I don't like wearing a temporary because you always make them too high,
And they fall off.
Yeah, right. After 6 months, the darn things fall off. It's ridiculous,
Right. But it's so true. And no patient is ever going to say, Doc, I know I need that crown, but I'm not getting it done here unless you can do it in one visit. That's just is not going to happen. So if you're going to invest in the CEREC, just like you said, you need to be the one to be playing the trumpet, blowing the horn, whatever, all day long about how your practice is great and you're making it convenient for your patients, because they don't sell themselves and patients are not going to leave, they're not going to say, I'm not getting a crown unless you have it. So you've got to be the one to make it important. We had this dentist contact us a couple of years ago, and I swear I don't even know what he was talking about. He said that his budget would only allow him to get our consulting services, or he just heard about this pain machine. And all you do, if somebody's having TMJ pain or something else, you just hold it up to their face and it magically takes the pain away. I'm thinking like, are you sure that thing's legitimate? Like he said, yes. And he took his whole office to Tampa to learn how to train on the thing. And he was convinced that if he just did this, there was going to be a line circling his practice, people waiting to get in. So he went for the pain machine. I think because to him, it was just much easier than actually having to learn how to do things differently. And sure enough, it didn't do anything for his practice, just put him further in debt. So I'm not saying a cone beam or a CEREC is in the same category as a pain machine, but they will be if you let them be. And unfortunately, most people do.
No, it's the same is true for lasers. It's true for cancer detection equipment. Any of those things that are out there that are very fine devices that were made for a very specific purpose, but you have to get the team utilizing it. You have to, because that's the other thing is it can't destroy your workflow either. Many of these things are a big change in your workflow, even though they're a huge benefit to the patient. And this is where dentists go like, no, I do everything like this. I can't lose this minute and a half because so much of their work is about, this is going to take me 2.5 minutes. This is going to take me 5.5 minutes and stuff like, if they lose 40 seconds on that, they get upset. If it adds another 2 minutes, they get really upset. And it's like, sometimes you got to slow down to speed up, and that's a hard adaptation when your entire day is so regimented with bouncing from operatory to operatory, doing, small chunks of time in procedures.
So something you said reminded me of this too. A friend of mine went to they went to a new dentist and they called me and said, I said, how'd you like your new dentist? So they were really great, but I wasn't sure what was going on. I saw this new hygienist and she grabbed my tongue and she was yanking on it. And then she started pushing on my neck. And I've never had, what's going on? And I say, that's great. You're going to a really great office because your hygienist did an oral cancer screening. And a lot of hygienists don't do that. And I'm thinking, why not take advantage of this moment and say to the patient as you're yanking on their tongue, I'm checking your tongue and the inside of your cheeks for any abnormalities. Then you start pushing on their neck. I'm feeling your glands to see if there's any swelling or any bumps or lumps on your glands. And the great news is everything looks good. I don't see any signs of oral cancer. Now this person would have thought, wow, this office is fantastic. Instead, he thought he was just being like molested or something unnecessarily. So all these little opportunities that the dentists just don't think of.
Well, and the other example I use is digital radiography, is because my hygienist did the same thing. She said, next time you come in, it's time for your full mouth x-rays. But we have digital radiography, which has 80% less radiation than the old film systems. What a fabulous thing to say, because
absolutely
people worry about radiation. They don't say it. They have no idea what it is. All they know is you've put a lead blanket over their genitals and left the room, right? So what does that mean? Something strong is coming at me, So,
I mean, if somebody puts a blanket over your genitals, you generally want them to stay in the room.
Exactly. Where are you going?
But not the lead blanket. That's a different situation altogether.
So another dumb thing. Tell me.
Okay. Here's another dumb thing. I'm not a Southern. Well, some people think Maryland is a Southern state. I think the Northerners think we're Southern, and the Southerners think we're Northern because we're just kind of in between. They're right on the Mason-Dixon line. But there's a Southern expression that I love, and the expression is "dance with who brung ya." And so many times I'll see a dentist who's, again, good practice, good person, great team, all these things, but they just know they can be doing better, take it to the next level, so to speak. But instead of doing what brought them there and what can bring them to where they need to go, they start getting sidetracked. Oh, I'm going to invest in my nephew's brew pub, or I'm going to start selling this $80 bottle of lotion in my office. And then if I get 5 patients who like it, they get 5 people to do it, they get 5 people to do it, and they get 5 people, we're all going to be millionaires, and we're going to meet up at the convention and show our checks on the big screen. It's like, what are you talking? Or they take a course and get involved in some esoteric procedure that might be fun for them, but nobody really needs it. So, if you're a dentist, who brought you? Well, for most dentists, I know there are exceptions, but for most dentists, it's a single location practice, not a satellite. I hate that term, a satellite practice. What the hell's a satellite practice? We can see at our satellite practice, it rotates around the sun, and we don't have good equipment there. But if you want to go there, sure. So, you double your overhead, you double your headaches by getting this satellite practice. Generally speaking, if you want to dance with who brung you, it's having one office. It's doing procedures that people actually need, like endo, core, and crown, implants and implant restoration, scaling and root planing, instead of getting involved in sidetrack with all this esoteric stuff that really just serves to distract you and increase your overhead. So dance with who brung you.
Yeah, I think it's easy to get distracted. I think the other, it's not just what happens inside dentistry, but it is very easy to go, oh yeah, but I could invest in this bar, and hey, if anybody who's made money, we have done some dumb investments. We have been talked into some really bad investments over the years, right? But the fact of the matter is, the reason the DSO industry is exploding and private equity wants in and is dumping hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars into buying practices is that a dental practice is one of the best investments anybody can make. If you have one, dial that up. Put your money into that place, and that will be one of the best yields you'll ever have, and it will become a bigger and bigger asset over time. Hard lesson to learn because it's something else sounds like more fun.
Exactly. Yeah, just what you need is to be practicing dentistry all day, then go into the brew pub to hang out there till midnight until they close. It might be fun for 1 or 2 nights.
Yeah.
Maximum. So true. Good, really great point about DSOs. Man, they are offering big checks for practices, and there's a reason. So, we've had people contact us and say, look, I really apologize. I know this is going to be nothing to you. I'm just a solo dentist. I've got 4 treatment rooms. I have 1 hygienist, 1 assistant, 2 people at the front desk. I'm just a nobody. Well, no, you're not, man. I know people not grossing, but netting $1 million a year on that setup. So you can do it. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's a beautiful business from that standpoint of, you can get as big as you want to be or stay as small as you want to be. You can really focus. I just talked to a dentist in Oklahoma. His primary business is dealing with sleep apnea. He runs 1 chair, basically, in his office. He's got a hygiene chair and an operatory chair. He's doing great. He couldn't be happier with what he's doing. That's what he promotes in the community. There's tons of opportunity to treat snoring and apnea. He's got the technology for it. He's not going, I need to get 10 times bigger. I need to add 12 chairs. It's like, I'm going to do this until, my son's wife, who is in dental school, takes over the practice. That's it. Let her expand it. Let her go wild. And that's what a great thing to be able to do, to say, I have found my level and of balance. And it's really wonderful. I make a great living. I help people and I work as much as I want. So
I agree. So I was going to save the next dumb thing until the end. I don't know when the end is. I'm having so much fun. I could do this another 3 hours. But since it kind of segues into what you were just saying, I'll talk about this dumb thing now. And that is, too many dentists have what I call a negative happiness equation, which means they're kind of miserable at work, but they put up with it because they think, well, I'm here at work, I'm miserable, but this is where I earn money. So if I earn enough money here, Monday through Thursday or Monday through Friday, I can actually be happy during the weekends through spending this money. So, and then you get, TGIF or, whatever. And then they get the Sunday night blues because when Sunday night starts coming around, they're dreading having to go to the dental office the next morning. So they think that by putting in this negative time during the week, they can actually have a positive equation because the weekends are going to be so much fun that it'll all be worth it. But it's just so not true. And then you just become a miserable human being. And, we spend a lot of time at our offices. We spend a ton of time with our team. If it's not enjoyable, we've got to do whatever it takes to figure out a way to make it enjoyable. And a lot of it does start with the team. I mean, we've got to enjoy the people that we work with every day. If you don't want to see these people, if you can't stand them, or if you've got a team where they're always gossiping and stabbing each other in the back and saying bad things about one another, it's just a formula to be unhappy at work.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's where you have to go every day.
Yep.
And I've been preaching this since before my first book, is that you don't have the managerial skills or the psychological training or the money to make a miserable person happy, but they will make your happy people miserable.
Right. So I remember I was at a dental lecture many years ago by a very, very famous speaker. It was probably a TBSE. And he got up there, he said, well, money can't buy you happiness, but you can be miserable in some really, really nice exotic places. And I'm thinking, well, who the hell wants that? Why do I want to go to the Amalfi Coast and be miserable? But everybody's clapping. Oh, it's so funny.
But they didn't see the absurdity of the statement because exactly. It had a nice rhythm to it,
Right, exactly. It was delivered well. The line was delivered well, which, as you and I know, that's 90% of the battle, right? Delivering. But I'll tell you a little story that I think is really funny and very telling about hiring team members. Many years ago, Dave and I have this business of helping other dentists, coaching, consulting, doing seminars, whatever. And we've really benefited from modern technology. But in the past, maybe 20 years ago, we needed a lot more team members to get the job done. And we had about 16 or 18 employees at this time, it was say 20 years ago. And we're preparing for the annual holiday dinner. And we, a beautiful steakhouse downtown, and Dave and I get there first at the big round table. And what do we do the second we get there? We start putting out place cards where everybody's going to sit. And why are we putting out place cards? Well, because if Harriet sits next to Linda, they're going to be gossiping the whole time. If Ginger sits next to Marianne, they don't like each other. And then, well, hell, if I'm sitting next to her, and this and so forth. And we said, this is ridiculous. Our team is so dysfunctional that we have to tell everybody where to sit to avoid having a horrible dinner. We said from now on, first of all, it might be time to give some people job opportunities elsewhere at the end of the year. But from now on, whenever we hire somebody, they need to pass the place card test. And the place card test means that if we're going to interview somebody and we think, well, they're good, but I wouldn't want to sit next to them at the annual dinner, they don't get hired. They've got to be the kind of person where they could sit anywhere next to anybody and raise the level of fun and not lower it.
Yeah. And as the marketing guy, I talk about how that fun, if it exists, it radiates. Just like if it's not fun, that is very evident to a patient walking into that office. There's a vibe. We have this very deep, primitive thing that goes on in ourselves where we feel a place. People used to walk into 800 dentists, and you've been there too. And they would walk into the lobby and they go, "Wow, this feels like a great place to work." And I'm saying, it's the lobby, right? But they could, right? They could tell already about the energy that people didn't have the Sunday night blues. I had a friend of mine, one of my employees who was a friend also, he said, He said, my girlfriend used to complain about, oh, it's Sunday night, I got to go to work Monday. He says, and I couldn't sympathize at all because I couldn't wait to get to work on Monday where all my friends were, right? That the power of a team working together is exponential. That's the only word to apply to it in terms of case acceptance, patient loyalty, patient spreading word of mouth. All of that is going to happen because that team is resonating. It's a 12-cylinder engine that every cylinder has to be firing in order to run smoothly.
I don't know. You seem like a Tesla guy to me.
They run very smoothly.
They do. Cylinder? What's a cylinder? What are you talking about, man? Okay, can we do a few more?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, you are known for so many things, but one of the things you're known for is you're the author of Everything is Marketing, which is a classic book in dentistry and outside of dentistry, I'm sure, as well. So you say everything is marketing, and I agree. And, your point is no matter what you do, it's part of your marketing. Now, there are other people that say everything is sales. You're constantly selling yourself. And it's true to a certain extent. But I'm going to say the dumb thing that dentists do is they try too hard to sell, making air quotes if you're listening to this on audio, they try too hard to sell dentistry. Now, of course, everything we do is sales, but there are these courses, how to sell dentistry, how to get patients to say yes. And you go there and they give you like these flow charts, well, if the patient says this, you say that. Then if they say this, you say it's like a series of mechanical retorts. And then at the very end, you're supposed to just like look at the patient in the eye and say, is this the kind of dentistry you want? Well, if it is, what would prevent you from starting today? It's like, what the hell? This is a dental office, man. So yes, we want patients to say yes to our treatment, but it can't be done through these sales techniques that might work with commodities. If you're selling a Toyota Camry, well, that person knows that 10 miles down the road, there's another dealership that has the exact same Toyota Camry. So maybe these sales techniques come into play when you're selling a commodity. But in dentistry, it's all about having the patient trust us, having them like us. They have confidence in our office. They trust our office. They know that if they get that crown at Dr. Madow's office, it's going to be a good experience, and the level of professionalism is going to be very high, and it's going to be different than getting the crown somewhere else. So instead of focusing on selling individual pieces, let's focus on cultivating trust and warmth and confidence and all those things. And then don't worry if the patient's not ready this Tuesday to get the crown done. They'll be ready next time they come in, or they'll be ready when they think, you know what, I really should do that. And I know I'm going to get it done in this office because I trust them.
Yeah, I talk about that as well, is that real success in a dental practice is going to be based on two things: the trust they have in you and the value of the dentistry that you've built in their minds from wherever they are. And again, it doesn't have to be your value. Your value may be no such thing as a missing tooth. It has to be an implant, no crooked teeth, no, everything has to be white and straight. That's maybe your value. That's the patient's value is different. And so you have to be willing to accept that what's important to them. You have to listen to what's important to them. And you're going to build trust by saying, I understand that's what is important to you. Let me show you how we can get it for you. And you saying things like, you don't have to start this treatment today. You're not going to die, right? It concerns me that if you let it go on 6 months to a year, because in my clinical opinion, it's going to get worse, probably cost you more to fix. But that's entirely up to you. That's a decision you have to make. I'm here for you to do that. I'm here to give you my clinical opinion, to bring you all my clinical skills. And believe me, I've done this procedure many, many times, and everybody who's I've done it on is really happy about it. But you have to decide for yourself.
Right. Either you get it done, you're going to wake up with a horrible toothache and then have to spend $10,000. But it's your choice. No, I so agree. Though.
No, it has to stay. And the point you make, and the point I will make it too, is like, it doesn't matter how great the thing is that you offer. If they don't trust you, they are not buying it from you. They are not going to say yes, because something in their brain is going, sounds good, but I don't trust this guy, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. It's so funny too that you talked about how, what you want for your patient isn't necessarily what they want for themselves. And brings up another phrase you hear in dentistry that drives me crazy. And that is when you hear a dentist say, oh, my patients have a low dental IQ. Well, of course they do. They're not dentists. You and your hygienist have a high dental IQ, but you're pretty rare. It doesn't matter. I have a low plumbing IQ, which is why when I need some plumbing work done, I call a highly professionally trained, excellent plumber who I like. He doesn't care that I have a low plumbing IQ. He's happy I have a low plumbing IQ.
He'd be happy if you tried doing the work with your low IQ, because then he's going to make even more money because the place is flooded. Right.
Oh, man. You just made me spit out my iced tea, I think. That was good. You've seen my handiwork around the house before, I can tell.
So this is great. I want to hear a couple more of these. So,
all right. Okay. One thing I've seen so many dentists do, and when we work with a practice, we observe what's going on in that practice. And too many dentists just overcomplicate the patient finances. I've seen offices that they have a 10-page financial policy that they make the patient sign, which scares the shit out of them. I mean, it's not that complicated. Don't let your patients pay things off over the months. Payment has to be made the day treatment begins or before. We take cash, check. Does anybody pay by checks anymore? I can't remember the last time I wrote a physical check, but we take cash, check, credit card, or you can utilize care credit. I mean, that's it. It's very simple. But then they start explaining care credit like, oh, it's not. And I love care credit, by the way. I just want to put in that little plug. If you're not having a lot of patients utilize third-party financing, you're leaving so much treatment on the table, because even if they do trust you and they have confidence in you, if they can't afford it, they're not going to get it done. So, they'll say, oh, we've got this third-party financing. It's through care credit. Now you just need to fill out this application. They're going to ask you all these questions about your income and your job history and your prison record and, this and that. And then they might accept you, but if they don't, loser, we're going to be bad. It's like, what? Here's how you do it. You offer cash, you offer credit card. And then if the patient if they're not comfortable with those, you just, again, look them right in the eye with a big smile on your face. We've got a great option for you. We can do 12 months interest-free. That would just be $200 a month. Is that something you'd like to take advantage of? And that's it. And then just wait until they say yes. And they always say yes. And then you go through what you need to go through to get them approved. And then, care credit wires the money to your account before you even touch the bird of the tooth half the time. And if that patient doesn't want to pay and they get in their car and they drive across the Mexican border and care credit has to send 3 mafia henchmen to find them and break their legs, you don't care. You've been paid. You're out of the equation. Leave it to the financial professionals. And then this happens so many times. If I'm talking about this in a seminar, somebody will raise their hand and say, yeah, that's great. And I do it. I do it that way. The only time I would let somebody pay off their treatment by the month in my office is if they get turned down by care credit, then I'll let them do it. It's like, what? A professional credit company has just told you this patient will shaft you. They've just told it to you. And that's the person you're going to let pay things off?
Right. Oh, my policy is to lend to Deadbeats exclusively.
Exactly. Right. And then they'll say, oh, well, it's okay. Because then if they don't pay, I'll just consider it my charity case.
Then do it for charity, do it for free, and at least get credit for it, right?
Doing charity dentistry is great. I always had at least 2 or 3 cases in my office where we told the patient we're doing this at no charge, and I do anything, anything and everything they needed. We're doing it at no charge because we've chosen you for one, if you had a difficult circumstance, whatever. We're going to do this for you at no charge. But don't fool yourself into thinking that if a patient screws you over by not paying, that's a charity case. That's not. That's a crime.
Yeah, that's right. They're not. That's not a loyal patient. That's not a referring patient. A charity case is you do 2 things. You say, look, I'm going to do this for nothing, for you. Don't tell anybody that I did this for nothing. Tell everybody what I'm a great dentist, or the great dentist I am. That's the deal. Okay. Right, but don't go around saying, hey, if you want free dentistry, I've got the guy. Okay. Because that's not who I'm doing this for you. So now they are appreciative, but they know not to go, hey, I got a way to get free dentistry. That's not my idea of the right marketing.
I agree. Well, I have a good friend who's a dentist in West Virginia, Dr. Rick Zambito. He's just the nicest guy ever. And he does 1 day per year where he treats veterans who can't afford dentistry at no charge. Now, that's charity dentistry. He doesn't do it for the publicity. He does it because he's a really kind man. But you can be sure the publicity he gets from that is incredible. This guy, oh my God, this dentist in our town is treating veterans who can't afford dentistry for free. That's the guy I want to see because I know he's a good man. So, there are benefits other than just being a good person to doing charity dentistry. I'm not saying that's why you should do it, but it does come back to benefit you as well.
Well, especially in this day and age, there's nothing wrong with benefiting from doing good. It gives you some social media promotion. I mean, there's a thing called Freedom Day. There's actually a couple of organizations that do this Veterans Day free dentistry in an organized way. Freedom Day is one of them, where it's a specific day, I believe in October, where all these practices who participate treat veterans. And it's all set up so that they can line up the veterans to do it and make sure that everybody has a place where they're going to get treated. But do take some video, put it on Facebook, put it on Instagram, put on a website, let the community know. I have a good friend, her entire business, and it's huge. It's a $4 million practice. It's entirely about community engagement. She does no other marketing except her involvement and her team's involvement. Again, circles back to the team. Her team's all involved in it. They're the kind of people who want to be involved in it. They love working at her office because they do it. They bring their kids to the events and stuff like that. It is a gravitational pull of the kind of patients she would like in her office, and a gravitational pull to great team members as well. So
absolutely. Along the same lines, I don't know if you know Dr. Mitchell Josephs. He's lectured at TBSE a few times. He's in South Florida. He treats Holocaust survivors at no charge, and there aren't many left. I mean, these are, people who are really up there in years. And he does it because he's involved in his synagogue and he really wants to give back to his community, et cetera, et cetera. But he has gotten so much news coverage from this. He is on his local news constantly. First because of this, and then I guess because he met the news people. Now whenever they have a dental question, they call him and they get him on the news. It's been incredibly valuable for his practice. And it all started, he started with a good heart and still has that, but he does it, and then it also gets him great publicity in the community. So it definitely works in your favor. You're not going to get on the local TV channel if you write off a deadbeat.
Yeah, even if it's a pre-screened deadbeat that
right. We have a service now. We can actually tell you ahead of time who's going to be a deadbeat.
So we got time for one more. So pick one last juicy, dumb thing.
Oh, juicy, dumb thing. I'll just say this. I don't know if it's that juicy, but I think it's really important to say. And it reminded me of it because we were talking about how you should not finance patients in your practice, leave it to a professional. Well, so many times in our careers, we need to utilize the services of a true professional, whether it's an accountant, an attorney, a financial advisor, a web designer. Maybe you want to do SEO and pay-per-click, so you want to utilize the services of a professional for that. It could be any of these, but we tend to just use what I call unspecialized professionals. Like, oh, my second cousin's a whiz with computers. I'm going to have her design my website. Well, maybe she can design a beautiful website, but she knows nothing about dentistry. Or how about, how many times in your professional career do you really need an attorney? Hopefully not that many, unless you're constantly getting sued, which that's, different topic altogether. Maybe when you purchase or start your practice, when you hire an associate to have the associate contract done, then maybe your associate's going to buy in. So you need an attorney for that. There aren't that many times, a handful of times. So when you need that attorney, you better get an attorney who specializes in dentists. Just an attorney that knows business. Oh yeah, they've done some contracts. They did one for a hair salon and they did one for a restaurant. You've got to know dentistry. And an even better example maybe is your accountant. Your accountant probably knows the tax codes really well, and they're probably a very smart person who's taken all the right continuing education. But unless they deal exclusively or almost exclusively with dentists, They don't know what our overhead should be. They don't know what a hygienist salary should be. They don't know what a good treatment plan acceptance percentage should be. They're not going to be able to really, really help you when it comes time to write a contract for your associate. But there are accountants and attorneys and web people and everything who truly specialize in working with dentists. So when the time comes, seek out a person that is least negotiated. I'm amazed that I've just heard like only 5 to 10% of dentists utilize a lease negotiator when they get their office space. Not only do you need a lease negotiator, but there are lease negotiators that only work with health professionals. So when the time comes, use a specialized professional who really knows dentistry.
Yeah, and a lease is one of the most complicated documents you will ever encounter. I've had several office buildings in my career and always used a broker, and she was phenomenal. She would go through this 50-page document and go, see this line here? This is where, even when you try to sublease, they get to bump the rent. And you go, I didn't see that. And she said, no, of course not. That you're not supposed to see it, right?
Right. That's why it's 50 pages.
Right.
I didn't see that in the lease.
Yeah, and in my business also, we would have dentists whose accountants, they would, as soon as the dentist was having a struggling year, the accountant would say, we need to cut your marketing budget. It's like, right. There's a way to go. Let's stop the new patient flow and see if that helps. And so, yes, I think that's a great way to end. Get professional help that understands your business. We have a very specific industry with very specific needs and procedures and technicalities and compliance issues that relate exclusively to us and state by state even. So terrific advice. And Rich, this has been, we're going to have to do this again because
I'm ready.
We've scratched the surface, and it's such a great time. It's so wonderful to be able to spend time and at least see your face, as and not everybody's getting to do that because most of you are just listening, but he has this beaming smile all the time and a shockingly good head of hair. I keep waiting for the day when he has to start shaving his head, and it never happens. And
Fred,
so,
yesterday morning at 8:30 a.m. Well, again, most people are listening, not watching. My hair was down to here, no joke. I had the pandemic non-haircut, and I finally got it pretty much chopped off yesterday morning.
So down to your shoulders. That's
exactly.
Yeah.
Now it's down to my shoulders. Right?
Yeah. So thank you very much, Rich. Give my regards to your brothers and to Candy, and I look forward to talking with you again. And everyone out there, as you know, podcasters live by subscribers. So if you like this episode and you want to hear more and you want it to instantly appear in your device, then subscribe and tell your friends, share it around, spread the good word. And in the meantime, keep being remarkable. Thank you, Rich.
And if you don't mind me just throwing in our website, because I'm sure some people might want to know, it's just simply.
It's going to be it'll be in the show notes along with Rich's home address and cell number and everything. So
perfect.
Yes, but it'll be in the show notes. But give me your domain just so they know.
It's Madow.com. It's with one D, MADOW.com. And Fred, I hope he doesn't put my cell number in there, but if he does, too bad. But if he doesn't, and you want to get in touch with me, my personal email is rich, RICH, at Madow, MADOW.com. And I promise I'll answer your email if you send me one. So Fred, it's been too long. It's been so much fun. You're just, always on top of everything going on in our industry, and so much fun to speak with. And you're so sharp, and it's been a pleasure. What can I say? I appreciate that you have me on.
All right. Thank you, Rich. Thank you, everyone. All my listeners. See you out on the road.